You're listening to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot with your host, Matty Conrad.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. We're in season 2 right now, and I'm recording from right here at Victory Gastown, which is one of our shops in Vancouver, British Columbia. And today, my guest is somebody who I was very fortunate to run into, and not through any small amount of effort. I actually tried to run into this guy intentionally a number of times, and we always seem to miss each other. And one fateful day, we were able to actually connect down in California for lunch. And, well, it's a hell of a story. But I really want to introduce you to one of my favorite humans on the planet, somebody I'm really excited to talk to today. I'm excited for you to get to know because I think his story is absolutely remarkable. Mr. Jason Schneidman, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, Matty, dude, thanks for having me, bro.
Man, I'm so excited to get a chance to actually talk to you. This whole thing with the quarantine is so crazy because I feel like I've actually been able to get more FaceTime with people through a computer screen than I have, normally in my regular life, despite the fact that I travel all the time.
Yeah, it's cool. We're all reaching out, and it's cool to start thinking about other people more, because we have so much time and we're sick of thinking about ourselves. So I've been doing the same. I got a helicopter overhead. It's the ghetto bird. I'm here in Venice, so that's the norm.
So we're going to have that from time to time. That's all right. The background noise, I think, gives it a little bit of context. I've always really appreciated that. One of my favorite podcasts that I ever did so far was with a friend of mine, Buddy Porter, and we were actually sitting in Disneyland doing a podcast, and you could hear the music playing everywhere. So I love I love the context. How are you holding up with all this, pal? I know thinking about other people is kind of your thing. So how has this been affecting you?
I'm doing good, dude. I mean, I feel bad saying that, but I've been hitting everybody up, and I'm like, how's everybody doing? Everybody I'm talking to is doing all right. I don't know anybody who has been directly affected by the virus. I see on the news, and I see this in New York and stuff. So it's devastating. And let me go back. I see the homeless people. They're affected by it a little bit more. There's lack of resources. So I take it back. But me, I've been running it hot for the last 18 years. I've been building a brand and working behind the chair and doing the late show with James Corden and doing photo shoots and traveling. I'm pretty exhausted. And I was like, I need a vacation. And I would go away for a couple of days and then it wouldn't be enough. So it's been kind of nice to slow down, and I'm not the kind of person that ever slows down. So this really was for me kind of chilling,
I think that's one of the reasons why you and I a little bit gravitate towards each other, because we are just those type of people that are constantly doing things. And in fact, through the downtime, I found that I'm actually been busier than I was before when I had a lot of opportunity to, spend downtime on a planes or in an airport or stuff. Now I'm just going full out trying to do as many things as I possibly can. Have you been finding that? I mean, I know you started a brand and you just launched your own barbershop, which we'll get to. But have you been able to find that downtime in all of this?
So when I'm not working, I'm building motorcycles, cars, projects, family, riding bikes with my son, RC cars. So this has been great family time and project time. And I'm like that always. And I value my time. So it's interesting because I always say I took my retirement my first 30 years of life because I'm used to doing nothing and making something out of it.
Well, I mean, I think that's, a great metaphor, I think, for your overall life, your overall story is so remarkable. And I know I've heard it in bits and pieces, but I really wanted to take this opportunity to hear it kind of in its entirety. I remember when I first wanted to meet you, I had seen your work and I had seen these videos of this guy with this long hair and this really crazy kind of out there kind of vibe, really fun loving. And you just look like you're having the time of your life behind your chair in these videos. And you were working for a friend of mine, Chris McMillan at the time. Yeah. And so I would, whenever I was in LA, I would stop by to see him and Justin. And I'd be like, oh man, is Jason here? I really want to meet Jason. And never, Jason's never.
I don't exist.
I tried so many times, and eventually you and I caught up. But I'd really love to hear your story. Especially the listeners. I would love for them to get a chance to hear a little bit of how you got here. Where you got started and how you ended up doing all this.
So I've told the story a bunch, more so now because I've been doing the philanthropy stuff. So a lot of people are into the story, and I've been carrying the message a lot. But so just to run through it real quick, like I, at 13 years old, was all about having fun and partying and surfing. And like, I think some of us are built that way to where we can't conform to school and that kind of stuff. And that was my story. I was running hot early, like wild, fun, like that's what I've always been. So it was that from 13 to 30, I didn't really work. And, that doesn't mean I wasn't cutting hair, because that was something I loved and that was something I was doing. But ditching school, surfing, I found surfing at 13 years old. I also found drugs at that same time. So those were my go-to, and then throw women in the mix. And that was a perfect chemistry set for fun for me. Yeah. And so I ran that.
That's early, man. That's so early. I mean, is that really like heavily immersed in that California culture, or was that?
I think for me, yeah. I mean, you can't really stereotype. Everybody's different. Like my sister's an attorney. She went to school and she showed up and she had fun. But me, my friends and the people I surrounded myself with, they were gnarly. Like there was a guy shooting guns in the alley behind school that got picked up by the SWAT. I smoked crack at 14. I drove down to the alley in Long Beach with a couple older guys in a Volkswagen bus, and we got shot at. Snoop Dogg was in my junior high school class. It was like Long Beach was kind of fast, and but then I had the Orange County, which is a little slower. So I was right on the border. So I also was friends with a lot of the pro surfers that were started surfing back in the day.
What was it about surfing that really connected with you? Like, what was it that really, like, because it's a thing that's been a consistent theme for you, and I see you post a lot about how that's your center. You know what I mean? It's what is it about that really connects to you?
I don't know. It was definitely a power greater than myself. When I was standing on the pier at 12 years old with my parents, and I was looking to the right and the left of the pier, and there was these A-frames coming in on both sides, and everybody had these bright Dayglow wetsuits, and I just started breaking down crying and go, I need to do this. I have to do this. And I was like, Dad, I have to do this. You have to get me a surfboard. So it was such a strong power. And then I got a surfboard, and that was it. And I just wanted to learn how to do it. And it took me 6 years to learn how to surf. I mean, you can get up and get the bug, but to actually hit the lip and come down, or to do a roundhouse cutback and not fall, like that took time. And
I believe that. I've embarrassed myself horribly trying to learn to surf. It's a thing that it takes a lot of perseverance.
It takes time, and the thing about it that I love so much is the way that was so in the moment out in the water. Like nothing else existed except me and Mother Nature, and watching it transform in front of me. It's kind of like the hunt, the thrill, and the kill. And I talk about that with haircuts and the makeover, and seeing somebody and watching it kind of evolve, and then doing something with it that's amazing, and then it being over and being able to move on. I guess that's my Aries nature. But after I surf, I would be worked out. I'd be hungry, and my skin would be amazing. My hair would be incredible from the salt water. And I just was like, it was just an amazing feeling that it left me with. And, I did that until I was failing my senior year of high school, and my parents are like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, oh, I'll go to City College. And they're like, well, you don't go to school now. Why don't you pick a profession and we'll pay for it? And I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And they're like, well, why don't you do hair? And I'm like, no way. I'm not a hair dude. Like, I'm a dude. Like, I surf and I like work on cars and I paint houses. And they're like, well, you really should get over that. And, you cut your friend's hair. And I was cutting my friend's hair at 14. I had a pair of clippers, and we were going through these different trends. Like it was Duran Duran, and we had like crazy longer hair. And then we did, we were mod, and I was putting egg whites in people's hair and eyeliner on. And we had scooters, Vespa scooters. And then we were punk rock, and I was shaving mohawks. And so, I was doing that early on, and my parents saw that, and I was always into style and fashion, and I cared a lot about the way that I looked. So they said, why don't you go? And I was like, I really don't see me doing that. And then I showed up to school, and there was all girls there, and I had the clippers that I'd already been using, and people were like, wow, dude, how'd you do that? And I was stoked. It was all girls. I was the only dude, and I got kicked out of 5 schools. And it took me 5 years to finish a year program, because I was doing the same shit that I'd always been doing, ditching and partying. So moved to San Diego, continued to party, did nightclubs, sold drugs. And I did that till I was 30, until the wheels fell off. I had a huge crack addiction. I was doing meth. I was drinking every day, smoking weed. And, the cops were coming for me. I had bad credit. Warrants for my arrest. I was 137 pounds, and wow. I was not a vision for you. Wow. It was really bad. And so I left, and I said, okay, I'm going to put both feet in the boat and become a hairstylist. I moved up, and I met Chris McMillan at a meeting of recovery. And I was like, dude, I heard you're the man. You do Jennifer Aniston's hair. I want to come work for you. And he was like, well, how much time sober you got? And I was like, a week. And he's like, get some time, come back and see me. So I came back at 6 months, and he was like, I'll give you 1 day a week. And I didn't pick up scissors. I just shampooed, and I was shampooing all these celebrities. And nobody in the shop knew I could actually cut hair. And Chris didn't even know until in meetings around town, he used to see my haircuts and be like, whoa, nice haircut. Who did that? And he's like, this guy, Jason. He's like, that dude works for me. And then this is cool because, the evolution of salons. Yeah. People get good. They get clientele. They move out. They take people with them. They open their own salons. That's Andy LeCompte, Mesh, Mar, what was the other one? Neil George. So all of these people came together, and they left Chris's. They opened another shop, and that opened up a chair for me. Chris said, hey, how about if I give you 1 day a week? You think you can put some people in that chair? And I was like, absolutely. I called everybody I knew. I was like, hey, you guys got to come show up for me. This is my big opportunity. Packed the chair. He was tripping. He was like, amazing. What if I give you another day? I was like, for sure. Hustled, called, got everybody second day. And he was like, wow. He's like, what if I give you a full load? And I said, yeah, I can do it. And I was working at this other little spot in West Hollywood where I was cutting all dudes' hair, and full boys town. I was fish out of water there, and I canceled there, quit there, and I brought over to Chris's.
I think one of the things that comes up very commonly about building clientele and about being able to do that are the hustle, right? We talk about the hustle in our industry so much, but what did that actually mean physically? Like, how did you do that? What were the ways that you were actually getting people to show up for you? I am very persuasive. If I want something, I go get it. Okay. And I eat, sleep, and fucking shit that until I get it done. All right. Yep. Whether it be a motorcycle, a car, whatever it is, I hustle. I was also a club promoter, so I wasn't afraid to approach people. Yep. And, I got rejection down to science. Like I don't get offended. I'm not like, well, then go F yourself. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just trying to give you a haircut here. Hey, bud, I don't get like that. I'm just like, okay, cool. No worries. Thanks. And then move on. So I actually approach people. I've made cards. I go out. I'm like, hey, go ahead. Please. No, I was just going to say, it's not you just sitting behind a phone screen, posting on Instagram all of your haircuts. It was
different back then.
And hoping for people to show up as a result, right?
It was a little different back then. I mean, you would date, you wouldn't have a site. You have to go hang out at the bar and get in people's face. So that's how I was doing. I was getting in people's faces. And, I asked Chris, and this is such a good method for people who are trying to build their clientele, give away a free haircut. I was the dope man. I give you a little taste of an amazing shape, killer texture, and an experience. And you go home and you are like, hooked on it. So one free haircut, and then they come back and they provide. So that's what my theory is like, first one's free. Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I really believe in that method too. I used to use that all the time. And I actually spent a lot of time, I think when I first started out, much like you, I had multiple jobs. I wasn't working at just one place, sitting on the chair waiting for people to show up. I was working a bar at night because when you first start out, look, you're not making a lot of money. When you're working that shampoo bowl, you're not making a lot of money,
Yeah.
and if you're not out there making a lot of friends, that you're able to turn into customers or clients, or you're able to at least use to help market yourself to their
Yeah.
friends.
It's
I think you're
crazy.
missing out.
Two things come to mind with that being said. Chris McMillan opened a salon in Malibu at the Country Mart, and I said I want to work there Sundays because it was kind of a dog and pony show that everybody would ride their hot rods and motorcycles out there. So I'm like, it'll be Sunday. I drive my hot rod, go down PCH, pull up, and I had a cool assistant, Casey, who does hair color now at Chris's. You might know Casey. She's
I know
wild,
Casey.
tattooed, just awesome. And we would show up and we would just talk shit. She was like, I love it. We would just walk around, and I walked into every store at that Country Mart, and I got busy within a summer, right?
Wow.
When he opened. And I was making $1,500 a day within a month or two. The word was spreading. And that's the hustle, going into shops and whatever. I forget what the other thing I was going to say was. Maybe it'll come back to me.
That's all right. I do think, though, I think that's the way it's built, man. I mean, I honestly think that's the way. And no matter how much these technologies start to assist us in certain things, I think there's still a lot of virtue in just putting in FaceTime and shaking hands and pressing flesh.
That was what I was going to say. I remember it. It always comes back. So I worked at Fantastic Sam's.
Wow.
At the local's choice. It's like Supercuts or whatever, Great Clips or whatever. I worked there to build up my 10,000 hour skills. So that's the other things I tell my assistants. You work for me, you go work somewhere else and cut hair. Go to Rudy's, go to Floyd's. Get the foot traffic going and get your skills up. And that's huge.
Absolutely. Do you now? This is you working for Chris McMillan at this point. You were deep into your recovery. Where did things start to change for you from there?
So Chris left and went to go do a movie, and he didn't need me. So that we back it up, because in between when he gave me the job and I was actually on the floor, there was a stint of me going in and out of recovery, and I relapsed. And I was a year sober when I was working for Chris, and it was the best part of my life. And there was a lot of people that were sober in the at the salon. And so I worked with these guys from Giuseppe Franco, and they were a big party bunch, and they were like Mickey Rourke, and all these like crazy partiers were around. And I was cutting hair, and then I relapsed, and I was calling Chris, and I was like, hey dude, I need to come back. And they're like, sorry, we got nothing for you. And then the front desk called me and said, hey, can you be here Monday morning at 7:45, because his first client's at 8 o'clock. We need him to be shampooed. So I said, sure. Sunday night, I was partying, doing meth and crack with a buddy. And I was like, I need to go home. It was 12:30. He was like, bro, I'm not taking you now. He was driving. And so I'm like, 2 o'clock, please give me a ride. How do you feel now? Can you give me? No, too wasted. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. He's like, I'm not driving you. The cops are out. I was like, cool. Kicked the door open at 5:36 in the morning, hitchhiked home, got home to my apartment at 6:30 in the morning, found a Coke can that I'd been smoking crack out of under my bed, scraped the resin, had a big pile, took a hit of it, and it was hallucinogenic. It was like the craziest crack resin that I ever. So, and I had a pile. So I smoked that from 6:30 to 7:30. I called a cab, had 2 cigarettes behind my ear. My jaw was all cut up, my mouth, my tongue. I got in the cab. They pulled up to Chris McMillan salon. I look, and I'm walking up, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to pull this off, right? And the manager was sober. Chris was sober. They're both at the doorway. I come walking up. They hadn't seen me for a year or whatever it was, 6 months. And they're like, oh my God. And they started laughing at me. And they were like, dude, where's the rest of you? And they're like, dude, when was the last time you ate? And they're like, get him a breakfast burrito. And Chris was like, when was the last time you took a crack hit? Chris is a crackhead also. And so he wanted to hear the details on them. And I looked at my watch, and I was like, 12 minutes ago. And he was like, oh my God. He's like, go shampoo Matthew Perry. And Matthew Perry was sitting in the waiting room. And I got up, and I was like, I hope he doesn't look at me. And he didn't look at me. And I was like, come on back. And we walked back, and I shampooed him, and my jaw was going.
Yeah.
I'm shampooing. And I brought him over to the station. I put him down. He didn't look at me. And Chris is cutting Matthew Perry's hair through the window. I go out to the courtyard. I light the cigarette. I'm like, I'm going to get high at 5:30, 6 o'clock because I'll make $100 from assisting and I'll make $100 in tips. And that was the burning bush moment where I was like, no, that's not why I came back here. I came back here to get sober. So I ran into the station right in front of Matthew Perry and Chris, and I was like, hey, I got a proposition. I'm like, you take me to rehab tonight, and I'll work it off. And it was $1,500, and I was making $100 a day from Chris. So he said, hold on. He called the rehab that he went to. It was a pretty gnarly rehab, and it's behavior modification. It was a year program, and Chris went through the same program, and everybody feared this house because it was gnarly. And he called.
But you went like right at it. You just didn't flinch. You knew that something had to change.
Yeah, that was the time. I was like, dude, I'm either getting high and dying, or I'm going to do this right now, and I'm going to, get humble and walk in there and put my ego aside and ask for help. And I walked in there and I asked him, and he called, and they said, nope, we're full. And Chris was like, dude, this guy's going to die. And they said, bring him here at 5 o'clock. Chris hung up. He was like, shit, I got Meg Ryan at 5 o'clock. Can't do it. He's like, hold on.
Crazy.
He called Meg, said, I got to take this dude to rehab. He took me to rehab. I've been sober 16 years ever since that day. 2/24/04 is my sobriety date. Chris drove me to that rehab, and I did the work, and I'm still, sober, and I've learned so much in these last 16 years, and I'm grateful to Chris and the recovery that I was given.
Well, I think a lot of us are grateful for that. You've obviously made it your mission in life to make quite an impact on other people as a result of that, I think. And honestly, man, even speaking personally, I'm really glad you're still around. I quite enjoy random interactions that you and I have. You're one of the people that I really do value to have in my circle of friends.
Thank you. I feel the same way because I'll watch your stuff on social media and you hit it home, bro. Like there's times where you're like talking about putting your health first and, all that stuff. And it's changed my life, dude. A couple of those things you've done have changed my life. And I look up to you with the stuff you build. And you said that we're a lot alike. I mean, I wish I had the skills. I'm Jewish. We don't know how to build shit as good as others. And you're like building shit. And so it's cool. I learned so much from you, bro. So thanks.
Well, that's super kind of you, man. Now, I mean, what a crazy world to go from, having addiction problems and having like that crazy lifestyle to literally being immersed in a world of celebrity and stylists. I mean, what is that like to go to?
Grateful every moment, exciting through every process, every phone call along the way. I'm like at Coachella and they're like, Chris is sick. You need to go do Hugh Jackman in Miami. I need you on a plane from Palm Desert Airport. And I was like, babe, I'm going to do Hugh Jackman. Like, oh my God. And then I get another call. Chris Cornell wants you, yada, 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 rest in peace. I'm like, dude, I'm going to Florida. And like, dude, call from somebody, Jen Atkins, threw me Bruno Mars one day. And she's like, yeah, Bruno wants a haircut. And I'm like, Bruno Mars, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, dude.
So it's not lost on you yet. Like you don't,
are you
still
kidding me, bro? Like it's insane. The gifts that have been given to me from me suiting up and showing up and it's just insane.
So, I mean, what is that like? What is that like when you're getting on a plane to fly and cut Hugh Jackman's hair? Like, what's that experience like?
Well, I was taught early in recovery that there's 3 kinds of business: God's business, my business, and none of my business. All right.
Yep.
So I have to stay out of fear. Okay. And that's how I was driven by all my life was fear. Mm-hmm. And I'm, the disease of alcoholism is selfish, self-centered. Okay. And so I'm constantly thinking about myself. And so if I'm thinking about myself and I'm in fear, I'm paralyzed. So when I'm on that plane headed to Hugh Jackman, I'll have those moments of like, oh my God, am I good enough? And I'm like, boom, karate, fucking swat that fucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, you gonna look all right? I'm like, boom, swat that thing. Like, dude, constantly from the minute I wake up, I'm just like in the moment, until I get there, everything's going to be all right. And if there's an action I can take, I take it. If there's not, I turn it over.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I've been taught this. This isn't something I came up with, and it works beautifully every time.
Now, we're in slightly different fields in that I don't work with a lot of celebrities. I do spend a lot of time on stage in front of like sometimes thousands of people, which is so crazy. And I have a similar thing that happens. You know, it's impossible to not feel that bit of fear that are you good enough for this? You know, do you deserve to be here kind of thing? And I've always said to people that are new at it and people that are just coming up, like there's this imaginary curtain that kind of divides the on stage from backstage, right? Backstage is very safe. It's totally safe. No one knows you're there. No one's eyes are on you. You're safe. But on stage isn't safe. You know, it's not safe at all. And there's this curtain that happens, and there's like fear is basically what it's made of. But everything you want out of life is on the other side of that fear, right? Everything good that comes that you're striving for, that you want to achieve, is always going to be on the other side of fear. I love your swatting away technique, man. I'm going to try to karate chop that fucking curtain next time. I run into that.
You got to walk through it. You know, the toughest things are what we gain the most from, you know,
man,
and
that's the truth.
Through that. Yeah.
Now I've been seeing a ton of work for the last couple of years that you've been doing with the homeless community down in LA. Yeah. And some remarkable stuff. And I'd love for you to tell people a little bit about that.
So it started with me and a gut and heart idea. I don't know where it came from, but it was right when cordless clippers got really good. So that was like 3-4 years ago or whatever it was.
Because for a long time they were junk. Like, I mean, not to offend the companies out there, but they just not anything compared to what we have now.
So I had an idea. And I was like, I'm going out and I'm going to take a backpack. And I called my buddy, business partner now, Blake Levy, who's amazing. And I said, hey, dude, this is going to be gnarly. And you might not want to do this. And if you don't, I understand, but I'm going regardless. And I'll figure it out. And I'm going to go help some homeless people with haircuts and maybe give them a second chance. And I got a backpack and I'm going to film it. And he's like, dude, I've followed you this far. Let's do it. And we went out on Hollywood Boulevard, right where the stars, you know, on the ground are. And I was like approaching people just like I did with promoting a club or passing out flyers in the shop. And I just went up to him and I was like, you want a haircut? And they were like, what? You know, like, yeah, I got no money. And what do you need? What do you want? And I was like, no, I want a haircut, you know? And they were like, yeah. And I did a couple of haircuts. I did like 3 or 4 that day.
How was it? I mean, was it hard to get people to kind of buy into what you were doing, or did you like? Was it just met with skepticism, or were they excited?
I'll sell anything. I can sell some shit. So I'd sold it, and they were in, and it was awesome. And I waited a little bit, and I went out and did it again, and then I started cutting these videos, and then I started seeing, and I got this idea from Mark Bustos. So I didn't come up with the idea. He's a
very good friend of mine, actually. He's one of my best friends. And we've actually discussed you before. You're kind of like the West Coast Bustos.
Yeah, West Coast Bustos. I like that, bro. I'm making a shirt. West Coast Bustos.
But what I really like about you, and I mean, he and I have done that together before in a couple of instances and stuff. And you know, I think it became kind of almost a thing that people were doing for a little while. I think, you know, just. I'm not sure why. I mean, I think mostly because it's the right reason. I see some people that were doing it to get attention, but I think what I've seen about you that I really appreciate is not just like you know, that you went out a couple of times to make content. You keep going out and you organize and you empower other people to join you to do it, and you make these events out of this thing. Like, tell people how that's grown and swollen, because it's really impressive and inspiring.
It's so crazy, bro. And I didn't know I had the ability or the know-how to do this, but I always say that not in the fear. So every time I go out and I try and do an event or something, it works out perfect. So it's like, why wouldn't I do another one? You know, and it's almost a rush to like, dude, is it going to blow up in my face or is it going to work? Like, is there going to be too many hairstylists and one homeless person? And so I'm like working out all the details in it, and it keeps my little crazy mind busy to like figure it out. And and I put it up on social media, and people hit me up and they're like, I'm coming. And I'm like, cool, we got one. And then I'm like, I'm coming. So I'm like doing the math on social media, like an esthetician's coming, a massage therapist. And I'm like, okay, well then where are we going to go find homeless people? And there's no shortage of that, but it's like, you can't just be mobile and go to one bridge and another bridge. So then I tapped into local resources of like a soup kitchen line, and I hit them up, and then the mayor's involved. And so it's just a lot of fun helping people, and I feel amazing, and everybody else feels amazing. And even more than that, I got this whole list of people going, you're changing people's lives in the world. People are hitting me up in Australia and Spain and Brazil, and it's like, dude, it's just insane from this one thought of the backpack. And
well, I don't think I think the biggest impact that we have in the world isn't the things that we do for ourselves. It's the things that we do for other people, and I think everybody deep down really knows that. But a lot of the time they're stuck on the other side of fear. They're stuck on the fear of like, well, what happens if that doesn't work? Or what happens if I don't know, or if nobody shows up or whatever, or this looks like a hassle, or maybe it won't work. And you just bulldoze right at it. I mean, I saw you handing out like turkey dinner to people, like, and just having stuff like that, which is so awesome. And then, I see down at Venice Beach, I think you do some big events. Are they always at the same place, or do they travel around? Or
so, there's a couple spots in Venice that are kind of hot spots where a lot of homeless people are. There's this place called Skid Row's. It's the street Rose. So, downtown LA, there's Skid Row, and it's like Twilight Zone. It's like a zombie apocalypse. It's super gnarly. And I go down there sometimes too. That's even more intimidating.
Yeah, and, East downtown LA is pretty gnarly in spots for sure.
Yeah. And so then Venice is my stomping ground. It's home. So I'm like, I feel a little more confident there. But there's the boardwalk, and there's that Rose Street. And then I'll just go out solo sometimes too. I mean, Mark Bustos, he came out it was Thanksgiving, and he hit me up, and he's like, I want to go do it with you. And I picked his brain for everything. I'm like, how do you stay so humble, and how do you do this, and tell me how you do this. And we went out together, and then he's posting up like, it's cool, people do it, but do it every day. And I was like, whoa, you're challenging me to that. Like, I'll show you. And so I just try and do it as much as possible, and it also is helping me more than it's helping other people, because I get to stay sober and I get to feel amazing. And it's interesting. I work with Jay Shetty, and he's a big podcast.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, right. And I was listening to one thing he said, and he said he trained as a monk for 3 years, and then they had this study where half of the monks went out to survive, other half went out to serve, and the ones that went out to serve had everything. They had friends, money, food, shelter, everything. The ones went out to go survive were struggling. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's crazy. If you go and you help, how much comes back, and it's karmatic or whatever it is, but it's just incredible, the gifts.
I think the interesting thing about barbering too, and I mean, not to get too esoteric, but I mean, it is the thing that I'm most passionate about is barbering, the barbering industry, and the role that barbering has played in community. Yeah. And I think that we've always seen our shops as very much community focused, and we benefit from the community we're in, and a debt is owed. We do in every community that we're in, we do work with the local homeless shelter in Vancouver. Our friends started this project a long time ago. Guys that work here, they started this thing called the Street Thug Barbers, where they go out every single Sunday to Oppenheimer Park, which is the worst.
Yeah, I've been there, bro.
It's intense, and
Canada's
they do this
gnarly.
Yeah, well, it's an unforgiving environment in some places, and it's sometimes a year, and we still have these tent cities that are set up for these people that are, like you say, they're surviving. And I think that, being able to go out and do that sort of thing is just an imperative for people that, benefit off of the community that they're situated in. This is I think a thing that all of us owe to each other in a society. And some people really step up to and rise to that challenge. I applaud you for what you've been doing. It's absolutely incredible. And one of the things I like the way that you talk to these guys. I think one of the things that I am missing, of course, when I go and do it, or with some of these guys go and do it, is the relatability. The pure understanding of where this person's at and what they need to hear. I mean, obviously your backstory gives you an extraordinary way to speak into people's lives, which I think is having probably the biggest impact above and beyond the transformative power of a haircut. I think is the way in which you care for these people and you love them with a strong hand. Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I do. So I love people. I hate the disease, and the
Yeah.
disease of alcoholism and addiction. It just rips through people's lives, and you know, I was taught in recovery that you have to pull somebody's covers, and you know that the disease is constantly doing push-ups and is stronger than the individual. So when I go at these people, I'm going at the disease. And if I call you a piece of shit, it's not you. I'm calling the disease and your behavior and your actions, you know, a piece of shit. Because look at what you're doing. You know what I mean? Do something different, get a different result. You know, and then you know I've been where they are, and somebody's talked to me like that, and you know, doctors, they didn't cure alcoholics. You know, they would go back in the day, you know, and they would go see a doctor and they'd be like, you know, we don't have a cure. It's a fatal disease. Okay, that's what it's called, a fatal disease. And it wasn't until one alcoholic or addict worked with another until they had success in recovery. And that's how it works. I get to stay sober. I help somebody else. I take them along, and in this last 4 years of doing this, there's been some incredible success stories. And I just got an email that just blew me away the other day, and I haven't even gone public with it because the girl who sent it, I haven't been able to get in touch with her. I've sent her emails, but she was at our event. One of the stylists cut her hair. She was pregnant. She was homeless. She sent a picture of that, and she sent a picture of her with her family and a baby and her husband. And she is thriving and successful. And she said it was all because of that woman and that day that we went out there. So
that's amazing.
I believe a haircut can change somebody's life. That's the motto, and it's just insane. I got this guy right now in recovery. He's been there for I think 120 days now. And I was wearing my Venice, the men's groomer hat, and he looked over and he's like, "Oh, bro, are you the men's groomer?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, dude, can I get one of those hats? It'll give me street cred." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I took the hat off my head, and he's like, I'm like, "What's going on, bro?" And he's like, "Yeah, just, you know, I'm tweaking." And he was like, "On meth." And I was like, "Well, you ready to get sober?" And he's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Dude, I got a spot." I'm like, "When you're ready and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, I can take you there and I will help you." And I'm like, "But don't waste my time." And he came back like 4 months later and showed up in my shop, and it was insane, bro. He called me in the morning and he's like, "Yeah, dude," or he was texting me. And he was like, "Black Range Rover, silver Sentra, they're following me." And I'm like, "Dude, that Black Range Rover, are they in front of my salon?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That's my 9 a.m. client." I'm like, "They're not following you, bro. Hang tight. I'll be right there." Right. And I took them and I dropped them off at Awakening Recovery.
Yep.
And, you know, you got a product line. This is a perfect time to pitch what I've been doing. So
Sure.
I started a product line. I started a barbershop, hair salon in Venice. But the men's groomer products, part of the proceeds goes to help get people off the streets and drugs and alcohol.
That's
How
awesome.
does it do that? So Awakening Recovery, this facility here, that's a year program, the same structure that I went through, they leave a bed open for me to find somebody, and I can literally find somebody, and I know when people are done because I've been done. And just like Chris McMillan helped me, I took that dude over to Awakening Recovery, and he's going to meetings around town, and he just called me the other day, and he's doing killer, and he's off drugs and off alcohol for 120 days right now. And this dude's going to make it. I know in my gut that this dude's going to make it. So, I mean, I'm not for sure, but this place has a really good success rate.
Man, that is incredible. That is such an incredibly positive thing. And I'm so, honestly, I don't know about you, but with all the news of, you know, Corona and everything that's been going on these days, like, God, we need a feel good story right now. And that to me makes me feel amazing to see the journey that you've taken And not only that, but honoring the people in your life that did that for you. I mean, let's face it, I don't know too many people that are listening right now that are going to cancel an appointment with Meg Ryan, to take somebody they barely know to rehab. You know what I mean? Like what an incredible thing that was for Chris to do, and what a remarkable thing you're now doing for other people.
Yeah, that's what I was taught. And yeah, it's just one day at a time. Just keep doing that and keep getting to stay sober. So it's real simple.
Man, that's fantastic. Honestly, thanks for sharing that with our audience. And for anybody else that's out there struggling, maybe with a similar situation right now, do you have any advice to give them?
Yeah, I mean, ask for help, because that's when, and it's like easy said, like ask for help. Like people don't ask for help, and it's okay. You can throw your hands down. It's not losing. Surrender is coming over to the winning side. So throw your hands down. Ask somebody, I don't know how to do this. Please show me how to do this, and your life will change. I guarantee you. And give it a shot. And if not, I guarantee your misery will be refunded. You'll be right where you were before. But it works for millions of people, and you got to have somebody show you the way.
Yeah, it's good. And kind of a what do you have to lose really scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, that's what it says. They say, you have to reach for the life preserver, like the drowning, and I always think of like the Alaskan fishing boat, the deadliest catch.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going off the side of that boat and they come back around and they throw you a life preserver and you're like, no way, I'm good. I got this. Let me just swim over. Like, no, dude, help me. Help me. Yes, I need help.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of enjoying it in here. I'm going to be okay. I'll come out when I'm ready.
Yeah. No, it's I was drowning. I was dying.
Now, I mean, to the heights of success, though, I mean, 16 years later now, in your own sobriety, and I mean, you've got an amazing looking shop, and clientele full of A-list celebrities, and my nieces will be so upset if I don't mention this, but you're a regular working on The Late Show with James Corden.
I am. So another phone call, and this one wasn't like, oh my God. This was a phone call where my agent said, you're going to be working with this guy. He's going to be a talk show host. And I didn't know who James Corden was because he was big in the UK.
Yeah, a lot of people here didn't know who he was before he hit.
So I Googled and I was like, okay, cool. And I show up and he comes out on the balcony and he's in his undies. And he's like, hey, mate, open up the gate. It's 6523. And I'm looking around. There's gardeners and there's people. This is like a house that they had rented him in Brentwood or whatever to come on over. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a trip. So then I walk in and he was just the sweetest, greatest dude. And I styled his hair, put mousse on, I blow dried it, I threw some paste in. I had to learn how to do makeup because that's where men's grooming started from. They wouldn't hire a hairstylist. That
is a weird one, isn't it? Especially when you primarily work with men, it's a skill set that like most of us don't have.
Yeah. And I was self-taught. I called my agent. I said, hey, I went to hair school. I went to makeup school, but really I went down to the Mac store and I hit up a bunch of chicks in there and I was like, teach me how to do men's makeup. And I was like, I need this, that, and the other. And I bought it all and I put it in and I was like, you got like a masculine box or something? And they're like, we got that black one. And I took this black box and I walked out and I got booked on Owen Wilson. And it was that bird watching movie with Jack Black and Steve Martin and Owen Wilson. And the groomers that were doing Steve Martin and Jack Black were at the monitor, and I was like, whoa, your dude looks good. What'd you use? And they're like, oh, I used this. And I was like, how'd you do that? And they're like, this. And I was like, cool, can I get a video? Yeah, great. So I was taught by all the other groomers in the industry. And I was in huge fear of the makeup thing, showing up on gigs for a long time. You remember early doing haircuts, how much fear we were to go work in a shop, and we were just faking it till we make it.
That was honestly, that's 100% of why I got into education, was because I was very much afraid when I first started. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was making all this stuff up, and that fake it till you make it thing is what we do. Right. And I mean, there's been along the way so many levels of things that, like you say, are that fear, and you got to swat them out of the way and go for it. Right.
Yeah. So I busted his makeup and hair out in like 7 minutes, and he was like, oh my God. He's like, bro, that was fast. He's like, you want to do my show with me? And I was like, thinking, yeah, right. I'm going to go sit on a show. Like, I'm traveling the world. I got the, the salon's busy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, but I said, yeah. And my agent called and they're like, they really want you. And I thought it was in the Valley, like 45 minutes, because everything's taped in like Warner Brothers, which is over in the Valley, and there's traffic. And I was like, what a nightmare. Turned out it was Television City, which is right here in West Hollywood.
Yes.
And they're like, you come in 2 hours, and it gave me benefits for my family, and I got in the union, and it's the best gig to date that I've had for providing for my family, and a consistent, because a lot of fear of like, when's my next gig, and this is a consistent gig. And it also got me out from behind the chair where my back and my elbows and everything was hurting, working so much. So I do 4 days at the Late Late Show, and I do 3 days behind the chair, and it's just the perfect. And James is the loveliest.
Well, you have no idea the credibility that bought me with my teenage nieces.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys are coming to the show. As soon as you get them out here, you gotta come, dude.
Well, when I told them I knew a friend of mine works with them, they just stopped and they're like, "What?" And they just lost their minds. So thanks for that. I'm much cooler to them, because before I think they just eternally rolled their eyes at me. But this is funny, because right after this started happening for you, maybe about a year deep into that, is when you and I first met. And this is an interesting thing, because we went off, we'd been texting back and forth. I was in town. You're like, look, I know, busy. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, this thing came up. And we'd constantly message each other. Look, do you want to go grab lunch? We'll go down Venice. We'll go grab a taco place I know. And I'm like, great. Yeah, great. So I come and I meet you and your son for tacos. First time we actually get to sit down face to face, have a nice chat. Yeah. And at the time, you and I are both rocking a money clip. And what's really funny is, of course, all the the table's full of food and wrappers and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, my money clip's on the table. I put it in my pocket. And we keep talking and stuff like that. And like 20 minutes later go by, I hadn't thought about it at all. And then suddenly you're like, where the hell's my wallet? And I'm like, Jesus, I don't know. I didn't see your wallet. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? Where's my stuff? And then we had cleared the table. We're like, oh, shit. We threw out your wallet. And we're like, oh, my God, where is it? We are literally like 10 minutes later, we're in the back alley of that place. And I'm standing there watching you and your son dig through the garbage can looking for your wallet. And I was sitting, oh, man, this is so awful. I feel so bad that this is happening right now. And now I put my hand into my pocket and I realize I have 2 money clips in my pocket. And one of them is yours.
That's amazing.
And I realized, holy shit, I just met this guy and I've stolen his wallet, and I made him dig through a garbage can in the back alley of a Mexican restaurant looking for this thing.
I was used to it. That's what I used to do. I used to steal people's drugs and help them look for it. So I was used to it, bro.
Oh, man, because I remember walking away from that meeting going like, well, I don't think we're going to be friends anymore. He probably thinks I'm a complete asshole. But, honestly, you've been really lovely. And there's been moments where you've reached out to me and just given me words of encouragement out of the blue, where you couldn't believe how perfectly placed that was. In sometimes where I've just, all of us are fragile, and all of us have moments where we have great days and bad days. And sometimes we feel really down on ourselves, or sometimes we don't feel we're doing enough, or some days we feel on top of everything, and for anybody out there who thinks that everybody's life is made, it's easy to look at Jason's life and think, my God, look, he's living the high life, or even for myself, people, I think, assume things, but all of us struggle on some days, you know what I mean? All of us struggle up and down. And you've always been a guy that has just reached out, and thanks for that. I appreciate it very much. It's made a big impact on my life.
Yeah, you likewise. I mean, I just reached out to you recently. We're launching the barber truck, which we didn't talk about.
And I did want you to talk about that, actually. Yeah, share with people that idea. It's really cool.
So a couple of guys came to me. They run a couple of big businesses, a couple of names that you guys would be like, no way, those guys came to you. But yeah, they came to me and they said, we have this idea. We're going to deck out this barber truck. It's going to go up, and it's going to come out. It's going to be like Soho House on wheels. And I'm like, I'm in. And they're like, you can take it to go do your homeless events. And I'm like, amazing. And they're like, we need you to design it. And I got in there and I was like, okay, I need this much space and I need lots of air and I need light and I need music. And I was like, that's it, you know? And so I designed the perfect like barber space. And so we're getting ready to launch it. We were just full throttle and then Corona hit. And so they just hit me up today and they're like, so we're giving you the keys and we're going to launch this open air. We're going to launch it open air because I saw that picture of the 1918 pandemic or whatever it was.
Right.
And so I just got a text. They want to get on the phone, but you were so cool, and we're not carrying tons of people's stuff. And I was like, I love Maddie. We have to have Maddie stuff. So you hit us up with beard oil, and we got some of your aprons, and we're going to be selling some of your products on there.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, my products will be on there, and we have, I think, some other shave products on there. But we're going to be at Coachella when Coachella gets back up. We're going to be at the golf tournaments, and we're going to be out on the streets helping the homeless, and we're going to live at YouTube and Google, and you'll be able to come down and get a haircut for people that want to spend that time with their family at home, because it takes 2 hours really to get a haircut.
Yeah, man.
You get in your car, that's a half an hour. You get to the place, you get a haircut for an hour, and then that's 2 hours from 6 to 8 o'clock at night, and you barely get to see your kids. So it's a great idea, and we're going to launch 5 here in LA, 5 in San Francisco, and then go worldwide on our nation.
Yeah, I've seen the drawing. I've seen the photos that you sent. That looks really cool. It looks like a great idea. I wish you well. Thanks a lot for including the aprons from our brand and stuff too.
They're amazing. Yeah,
it's
all your products are killer.
We've been so fortunate, man. I've busted my ass on those things, just like I see you busting your ass on yours. You've done a great job with them. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, everybody loves them.
Why don't you just tell people where they can find you, where they can follow, and how they can support you? Okay.
So yeah, the Men's Groomer on Instagram, the Men's Groomer Foundation on Venmo, and themensgroomer.com. And if you're ever in Venice, come on through and get the best haircut shave you've ever gotten besides Matty Conrad's spot.
All right. Well, I appreciate you spending the time with us today, my man. It's a really pleasure talking to you, and I know a lot of people are going to be really interested in following along in your continued journeys. Thanks for all you're doing down there for the most at-risk people in LA, and thanks a lot for sharing with us today, man. Really appreciate you.
Dude, thank you so much for what you do. I'm really grateful that you're in my life. Thanks so much.
All right, everybody. This has been my conversation with Mr. Jason Schneidman, the Men's Groomer on Instagram. We're going to see you again next week for another interesting conversation and exciting episode of A Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Bye-bye, everybody.